We're back.
We accept the challenge of providing dangerous, thought-provoking, and sometimes controversial insights into life's most common topics.
I don't know why I packed the hollow points.
Did you just say hollow points?
Yeah. Probably should have brought a super soaker.
Can you resolve conflict via text?
No. Well, yes, let me take that back. I said it too fast. I don't think you should. It shouldn't be your primary go-to. But it depends on what type of person. It depends on the person you're in a relationship with. And let me explain. And I'm going to use my daughter as an example, one of my daughters. I hate typing out long texts, but for whatever reason, she prefers to text me things when she's frustrated, which I don't mind because you can't say what you thought I said. This is actually what I'm saying, and I can't go back on what I said. Now, sometimes when we're talking over the phone or whatever, we have a little heated little conversation, or face-to-face, it'll come back as, well, no, you didn't say that. That's not what I said. But with her, if it's in a text message, no, this is what you said right here.
Receipts.
Oh,
She like receipts.
So,
okay.
right. So it depends on who you're in a relationship with. Are you in a relationship with a person that hears you but don't listen? Then you might want to text them and say, hey, this is over with. Because, they hear you, but they're not listening. But they probably, if you text it and say, look, you hurt my feelings because of, and you run it down and they're reading it. Yeah, they may get it instead of you telling them face to face, and then they're halfway hearing it. All they hear is you blaming them for something, and they're not listening to what you got going on. So, yeah.
I haven't met baby girl, but I think I like her because she just introduced me to something. You saying that we need to know people's conflict resolution language?
Yeah, there you go.
Ooh, damn. Okay.
Because have you? Now listen.
Oh, go ahead.
Their dad, their father, change that. Their father talking to him, and I don't do face to face. I hadn't done it in many years. But just talking to him.
It's not your conflict resolution language.
I mean, yes, face to face, it's gonna end up physical. Because over the phone, he yells, he cuss, he will not let you get a sentence in. But if I text him, he'll read the whole text. He probably read 3, 4, 5 times. Probably could verbatim say it back to me exactly because for whatever reason, if I put it in, he studied like a book of what I said. But if we're talking on the phone, he ain't heard half of what I said. He ain't listening. He like to hear his self-talk.
Damn. Okay, I learned something today. Take me some notes. So I do like that. Like, we have to figure out how we resolve stuff from people. And we agreed talking is probably the best way in some form or fashion. But I think, CP, can you tell us, like, I think some people do it the silent way, or they don't talk, or they avoid it. Is there danger in that, or is that beneficial?
I think so. I can tell you, because one thing we do a great job here with our folks is we bring a lot of our personal experiences and what we know, not what we think, not what we heard. And I'm going to tell you this. I was in a significant relationship with a woman for a long time. And a long time being like 3 or 4 years. Okay. When you're young, that's a long time. And one of the things that she was big on was, I don't want to talk about it right now. And then I developed the concept of, okay, the next time we talk, it'll be about this. And the reason why is because
beautiful concept.
Not talking about it has never resolved anything naturally. Just avoiding it and ignoring it only allows for it to come back later in another form or fashion. We have to squash this. We have to absolve this in order for us to be able to learn how to deal with it when it comes up again. Because if you with somebody long enough, a lot of the issues that you have with them or that you have about them become repetitive. It becomes who they are and who you are, and they become clashing type of situations. And so I do feel like you need to have that type of commentary. But I also feel like The reason why text messages as a conflict resolution language works is because it naturally takes the emotion out of
Mm.
what's going on. And when you say something, it can't be unsaid. You can't put the
Mhm.
toothpaste back in the tube.
Can you
And so
can
if
you
you're a
pause for a second
volatile,
though? It depends on
say
how
it
that
again.
person reads it because I've sent a text message and they read it back to me in a totally different tone.
I agree.
Maybe
So
that's the
what I was
difference.
going to say in that
Right?
regard is the best that you can do to actually resolve something that you can live with and move on from is to try to do everything you can to take the emotion out of it. And so for me, the way in which I take the emotion out of it is not necessarily silence. It's going to seem like silence to the layman person that's observing it. But what we go through a lot is we realize this is going to get hot. And so we do, as I say often, consult with the pillow. So we let this go until the next day. And if I still have that same energy that I had the day before, then it really did mean something. But what you'll realize if you use that technique is in that moment, it was about other things. It was about something else. It was about wherever you was hormonally at that point in time. And generally, if you can give it 12 to 24 hours, it'll come out differently. It doesn't mean that you weren't as pissed. It doesn't mean that it wasn't as tough or whatever. But when you get a chance to take a step back from it, you get more data points, you get more information, you get more evaluation within yourself to say, what am I trying to get across when I open my mouth and express my discontent here? What am I trying to solve or prove or submit to this individual? But in real time, you not thinking of that. You trying to hurt them like they hurt you. You trying to prove your point and make yourself right no matter what, or you're trying to chastise and teach this person something in the time in the frame of time that you have. You should always take a step back for anything that could be significant and say, time out. Let's go back to our separate corners. We will absolutely talk about this at 3:00 tomorrow for whatever time it is. Let's give it enough respect to schedule some time. And I know that sounds lame and professional and kind of cold,
Not to
but
me.
I'm telling you this from someone that's been married for a long time. That has worked better than, like she was saying, the punches in the face and the kicks to the nuts or going to get in the broom. You know what I'm saying? That might feel better in the moment until the house all tore up. Now you got to pay for all this damn damage. Sometimes you have to go back to neutral corners, and then you're able to evaluate and say, wait a second. I do remember saying this, or I do remember promising I was not going to do this again. Damn, she might be right. Now, how do I make it so where she ain't absolutely right? I'll figure that out. But you got to be able to take a step back from it. And that's just, the nature of a mature relationship that wants to work. If you have a relationship and you could give a damn if it works or not, don't listen to any of this shit I'm saying. Go balls to the wall and road rage the hell out of y'all living room.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because you don't really want this anyway. But if you do really want this, for the sake of it actually working long term, it's always good to take a step back and say, wait a second, these socks on the floor, this toilet seat up, this milk empty in the refrigerator, this is not worth the whole thing. And unfortunately, we take these small things and turn them into big things, you know what I'm saying? And allow for it to infect the entire relationship. And that's bad conflict resolution. It's bad communication, because a lot of times being quiet, you're adding these things up in your head and creating an indictment list that this person shouldn't be privy to, or it's unfair to that person because you bring in the emotion of the last 6 or 7 things that pissed you off into this one thing. And they like, how are you this mad about me being late for dinner? And it ain't about that being late for dinner. It's about so many other things that you've added to the pile. And this person has not known that was being calculated in the background. And that's unfair to somebody that you really love or really care about. Don't do them like that. You know what I'm saying?
You said something kind of crazy. I want to say, did you say that the person giving the other person the silent treatment is still having the conversation about the argument in their head, but they speaking for the other person?
A lot of people play out, if I say this, he probably gonna say that, and then I might end up having to say this, and then I'm gonna say, and the 30 minutes have gone by, he on the couch sleep, and you're arguing with both of y'all. You doing an argument on your own, and then when he wake up, he like, hey, what time is dinner? I ain't cooking no fucking dinner. It's like, whoa, wait a second. Because you've harbored all of the emotions from all of this argument that you had by your damn cell phone. If he say this, then I'm gonna have to say that. Then he gonna make me go there, and I'm gonna have to do this and this and that. And he been out of it the entire time. Now you bringing something that he didn't even subscribe to into the emotion of where you are now, and now he confused and he's overreacting, defending himself because what the hell? This started with, I don't like for you to spit in my side of the sink. Now we talking about when my sister wanted to borrow some money 6 years ago.
No. Shonda, does this happen? Do you have conversation in your head and you try to predict what he's going to say? Does this happen?
No, not predict what he's trying to say. Yes, I have had conversations in my head. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm trying to think of an example. You're welcome. I think, I don't know, maybe one day in the morning had made me, like, aggravated me before work. So, and of course, you work together. So, aggravated me before work. I'm like, ugh. So now I'm already aggravated. You got me running behind because you added an extra something that I had to do, get to work. And I'm saying to myself, don't bother me. Don't stop me today. Don't come by my desk. Don't say nothing.
Nothing normal. Nothing that you normally do. Don't do that today.
Don't do that today. I done had enough.
Don't bring no roses to my desk. Okay.
Don't do nothing. And then so it doesn't happen. Like, oh, okay. So he must know. He kind of got on my nerves this morning. When he came by and said nothing, I'm like, okay, cool. Working.
So
get off work.
Either way? So he lose either way?
Well, I'm just saying, I've done it because I get off work and we drive
separate
cars.
You said it in your mind and he didn't do it anyway.
And he didn't, but we got home. We got home and I still got the attitude. Because, see, I didn't get a chance to talk to you about what you did before, that morning before we went to work. So I get home, I still got attitude. Because I'm like, you done messed me up today. I had to do other things when I got off because you didn't do something that I asked you to do. So I get home, and in my head, I'm saying, he better not ask me what we're going to eat. He better not ask me nothing because I don't want to be bothered. So I come through the door with attitude, and he doesn't. But he does this all the time. No matter where we been, whenever we separate, or he leaves or I leave, before he leave home, we got to kiss. When we come home, we kiss. Even though I seen you at work all day, it doesn't matter. Whenever we come from, wherever we come from, that's his thing. So, of course, I get in the house. He made it before me. I get in the house, and he comes up to give me a kiss. And I'm like, what? Like, I already don't know what it is. And I'm like, what? It's like, what's wrong with you? And that's all I needed. Because I knew he was going to say it. What's wrong with you? And then I just went from there. This morning, you did. He was like, oh, okay. So, yes, I have done that.
Even though kissing is the rule.
Yep, even though. Because
okay.
We didn't talk about it. You made me mad, but you stayed away because you knew. Mm-hmm. You stayed away from me because you knew. But I still had to get that out.
That's a compliment to know.
Yeah. He does.
You enough to know. Exactly.
And that's why I love him. That's why I love him. And he knows
after
me.
the fact, though. Because you wasn't loving him during the time when you was cursing his kid.
Don't come about his death. Don't you come over here. Ask me how my day going.
You know how my day going. So I got y'all brought it up a few times. So I do want to touch it, and I know my perspective is not the most popular, but I'll state it. When people say they have been physically disciplined or physically had conflict resolution, a lot of times I end up, I'll say more than half of the times, after talking to that person a while, I'll be understanding why. I'm not a person who physically resolve conflicts or physically discipline a person I think is supposed to be my partner. But when I see some of these bad attitudes and you lashing out at this person and name calling and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, I could see why dude did that to you. I'm not gonna do it. It's not my situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I could kind of see why he was trying to straighten it out that way. What do y'all think about the physical discipline and why does it happen in most cases? Some people are just crazy. We know that. But
I can feel this one. So
okay.
you coined a term that I think is going to catch fire, and that is conflict resolution styles. I can honestly say that I've not, luckily, thank God, I've not attracted women who feel like that's part of their love language or their conflict resolution style is to get shook. You know what I'm saying? But I do know and have heard of women who feel like that is a form of communication, is that
Wow.
I
Yeah,
need you to
you're
be
right.
as hurt as I am to where you're willing to lash out. And it's no different. It's funny that well, it's not funny, but it's interesting that we are absorbed the concept from a societal perspective of a woman causing property damage to a man's car, right? like that,
Yeah,
like
that
that's so
happens.
common.
Yeah.
See how you said that happens. That
Yeah,
happens.
yeah.
I've
Sometimes people
done
do
that.
illegal things
It's
in the sake of
commonplace.
love.
Wait, you've done
I've
it?
done that. Yeah, I've done
Okay,
that.
we'll have to come to you on that. Hold on. But
And I've had it
before you
done.
And
before you
it
go on, I
wasn't
will
even
say,
his car.
Oh damn!
whoa. But I will say
I don't understand this phrase.
before you continue, we do have to get back to it. Before you continue, Michelle A was dating Dr. Dre. She said Dre would beat her. Then she started dating Suge. She was like, why doesn't he beat me? Doesn't he love me? I got to do more stuff to make him beat me, so I know that he loves me.
I think so the idea in this, and if you talk to therapists or counselors or psychologists or whatever, the idea of this is people want or feel that a level of passion needs to be equal in a relationship. And as you know, Shonda, for your relationship, the expression of passion is not the same expression. That doesn't mean the level of passion. Doesn't mean that he loves you less because he don't want to go off and cuss you out and all this and other stuff. The way in which he expresses his passion is on a different frequency than the way that you used to in your old relationship. Y'all used to match cuss for cuss and fight for fight. You know what I'm saying? And y'all thought when y'all was exhausted, this is the best love, the makeup love, because
that's why you
we
need
just
that
got
time apart,
our juices flowing. You know what I'm saying? We got our juices flowing. We all lathered up. But that's not the way everybody chooses to engage in relationships. And a relationship is not going to be hunky-dory all the time. And she says the right thing, he says the right thing. It's going to be some times where y'all not connecting on the same wavelength. And y'all just have to kind of tone down and tone things out to get reconnected. But the idea of the physical dynamics of it is you do have people that have been exposed to that, and they realize that is the ultimate. When I can elicit a physical reaction from this man or a physical reaction from this woman, I've taken her, I've pushed enough buttons. She cares enough or he cares enough to lash out and try to, to show me that much passion or that much concern. And it's a dangerous game to play. And it's a lot of people have snapped and created shows about it. But the idea of it's a very old dynamic to where when cavemen was grabbing women by their hair and dragging them, that this idea of passion being performed in the avenue of rage or in the avenue of fighting another dude, like for whatever reason. And let me ask you this. In the society of vaginas, is there a certain smile that you have for a man willing to assault another man on your behalf? Is there some kind of pride or excitement that your man done whooped another dude in the name of your honor or in the name of you, whatever? Your man has decided to physically assault another man and you had something to do with it. How much, be real. Now we being real.
Yeah,
How much in the society of vaginas does that really have a good weight?
I think it's stupid. I wouldn't be excited about it, and I would never put my man in a situation to where I want to see him do something like that to somebody else or somebody do that to him. I don't want to see him hurt. I don't want to see him in handcuffs or none of that. So I
Let me
know
ask you.
women
Let me
that
ask you a
do
question
that.
though.
I know women that do
Okay,
that,
go
and
ahead.
I think they get excited to have guys fighting over them. But
Okay.
I wouldn't. So I'm gonna give you one of my stories.
Okay.
When I first started dating my husband, my children's father was still crazy, acting crazy, like stalking me and all that type of stuff. And I was living in this house, renting this house out, which is me and my girls. He stayed with me before. He stayed with me, but I put him out, whatever. So I had been staying by myself about 3 or 4 months. So when we started dating, he asked me where did I live, what part of town I live in. I told him, and then he was like, "Oh, okay." He said, "Yeah, I got some family in that area, where nearby where you stay," and I wouldn't tell him. And he said, "Why not?" And I told him, I said, because sometimes at night, sometimes during the day, my children, I said my baby dad would ride through here, and he always trying to see who's over here, whatever. And he was like, "I don't give a fuck about that." But I did. And I told him, I said, "But I do. Because I don't want you to go to jail or get locked up over this ignorant ass nigga that don't mind going to jail. He don't care." I was like, "But I don't want to put you in this situation." So I never told him where I stayed. So, but,
Let me ask you
other
this: in
women
the
might be
idea
like,
of
"Come on
his
over."
willingness, does he get credit for his willingness to engage in fisticuffs over
Um,
you?
Nope,
Or
that didn't make me like
at
him
that time,
anymore.
younger you.
No, at that
Okay.
time it
Okay.
didn't make me like him anymore or less.
Okay.
I just knew he
Okay.
wanted to see me. He wanted to be with me.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I didn't want them problems. I'm like, I
I
just didn't want it. And
applaud
then
you.
once we moved together, it didn't stop
Hmm.
then. When we moved in together, he still was, "I don't want nobody around my kids," all that, rah, rah. And one day we were going to drop the kids off over to his mom's house, and he had told me over the phone, he was like, "If you bring him with you over to my mama's house, it's going down, blah, blah, blah." So
He sounds
I
so hood.
had, he is ignorant ass.
Oh, my
And
mama
so,
house. He said, "You bring this man
over
up to
his
somebody
mama's
else's
house,
house that's paying taxes."
right.
I'll be. I'll be
So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm saying
But
in my
maybe he should
head,
not have been gone in the car either. But okay.
but I was like, I just dropped him off. And he was like, "No, we gonna drop him off."
right.
The whole time riding over this, like maybe a 25-minute drive, I'm just like, "Oh my God, what's gonna happen? Like, he's gonna act a fool. Chris gonna go to jail." Like, golly. Like, he had never seen him or met him, and I'm just like, man. So we pull up to his mom's house,
Mhm.
and we're coming up. She live on a hill, so we're going up the
Mhm.
driveway. It's on a hill. Get to the top of the hill, and I'm in the car on the passenger side. Chris gets out, and he opens the door for Shawnee. Both of them was in the backseat just before we had our baby together, and he's getting Shay out the car seat. This nigga jumps off the porch because it just looked like he just jumped out the house. When I looked up, it looked like he had just jumped out the house. He didn't have a shirt on. I mean,
Yes.
he had the battle gear
Yes.
on, no shirt and
Yes.
some basketball shorts.
Yes.
And it's like once Chris stood up with the
Is
baby
this
in
his
his
place of
arms,
residence?
It's his
yeah, he
mama's
lived
house.
with his mama,
Yes.
Okay,
And
okay.
once
Yes.
Making sure. They're one and the
and when
same. All
Chris
right.
stood up, when Chris stood up and he had Shay in his arms, he looked up at him because Chris is taller than him and bigger,
Hmm.
and he
Hmm.
said, "Hey man, what's up? How you doing?" And
Yeah.
extended his hand out. And Chris shook his hand and everything. He was like, "I'm good." He was like, "I'm Chris."
Yes.
He was like, "Nice to meet you." And
Yeah.
instantly I said, "This nigga ain't shit." Now it's not that I
Oh,
want.
damn.
It ain't like I
Oh, damn.
wanted to fight, but I was taken back because all this stuff you
Right.
talked up on this for about 2 years, bro.
Right. Right.
And this is what
But
you
but
do?
but to see him bow down though, that didn't make you respect Chris a little bit more.
No,
or
but see, here's the
or adore
situation.
him or whatever.
He had done, and I know we coming up on it, but what he had done was he had done exactly what every terrorist organization wants to be done. He had said a lot of stuff to make you feel like you couldn't move freely or operate accordingly out of fear of what might happen, as opposed to you seeing how it's really going to go down. And luckily, you had a situation where time had elapsed enough to where your guy was comfortable and said, listen, we can't keep living like we can't keep letting him terrorize how we move and how we operate. And so it's going to be what it is. Let's just go figure this out, because it's not going to mean any of us any good. The kids, you, me, or him, if we just keep letting a terrorist run what we have going on over here. And so when he faced the boogeyman all of a sudden wasn't a boogeyman. It was just an old person with with bad clothes on. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
and I
like
think
he wanted a hug.
but in the form of resolution and communication, it was a situation where you weren't communicating at the time all of the fears or all of the thoughts, because I do believe that your husband now could have said, that's not even a concern for me. I've dealt with people like this in the past. Let me tell you how but that exchange of experience, that exchange of wisdom, and him saying, I know how this is going to go down. Trust me. 9 times out of 10, this is how that's going to go down, because your kids got to see they people. And it can't be a situation where I remember I was in a relationship where I told her, I don't really fool with your people, but that don't mean you shouldn't fool with your people. I would feel bad if I was the wedge between you and your people just because they don't like my get down and I don't like they get down. We both have something in common, which is a concern and a love for you. So just go do them, and then you could do me, and then we'll just keep it that way and try to figure it out. And ultimately, that doesn't work long term. I was young. I didn't realize that's how that plays out. But the moral of the story is I still feel good to this day that I wasn't the one saying, forget your people, man. You need to ride out with me because I care about you more than them and this and that. At some point in time, you have to make sure that everybody is getting the most for who matters the most. And that was them kids at that time. And so he was able to get over himself and bring it to the square for the sake of them 2 girls. Dude, by the grace of God, was able to get over himself and his hood ways for the sake of them girls. So you guys have to give him credit for nothing else that he's ever done besides had him. But that's a credited moment that he should have in conflict that you had. That was all like Oprah said, was in your head. Most of it was in your head. Some of it was some of the crazy stuff he had said. But trust me, he had said crazier stuff, I'm sure, that never came to pass. So he's just a talker, and you know that from where we from. Monks just be talking. They just be talking.
He didn't make it.
So. But yeah, I think that, my point on conflict resolution and communication, I think that communication is the key to any success or any failure in anything, whether it be romantic relationships, business partnerships, or whatever. If you don't have visibility and transparency, you can't make somebody accountable. You can't make them understand what's going on. And I say this all the time. I can't go by what you mean. I can only go by what you say. That's the beauty of the text message, like you were saying. Sometimes, sometimes things are lost in translation because people don't express themselves accordingly. Everybody's not articulate. Everybody's not eloquent in the way that they bring things about. But if you care enough to ask a couple of more questions and you give time for the emotion to subside, and now we're just talking about the facts. We're just talking about this, what you did, this, what I said, this, what I felt. And this is why I felt that way at the time. That tends to lead to more resolution or more comfort. Even if it's not a resolution I can live with, at least I'm more comfortable with the closure to understand it was never going to work. I've had relationships that didn't work out. And after we calmed down and some years later, oh, you know what? That was never going to work. I'm so glad that we moved on. I'm so glad that we moved on because we tried to hold on to, like you said, the 25% that was good and was trying to act like the 70%, the 75% was just going to fix itself. And it never just fixes itself. Nothing that starts off wrong ever just winds up right. It takes a lot of work and effort and energy and communication. So I think that from a conflict resolution, we have to identify that conflict doesn't always get resolved in a positive way. There's just a resolution that occurs, good, bad, or indifferent. Another thing is it'll never get resolved by just one person on one end. It's just like forgiving somebody. You forgiving, you making that apology for yourself as much as you are for the other person. And you have to make sure that you can live with where we go from here.
Now, when you
Like it.
say,
Mhm.
no matter how articulate you are when it comes to
Mhm.
communicating,
Mhm.
you can be a very good communicator, but is that person listening? Are you a great listener? Because I think some people, you can have two people and that one person can be so good at communicating what they like and what they don't like and this, that. But if your other half is not a good listener, then it's what they say, falling on deaf ears.
It
That
is.
goes
And
to
so
effort.
what I'll say is this:
Goes to effort.
desire
Yeah,
is a
desire.
very big
Yeah.
component. Do they want to hear what the hell you talking about? And generally, time and love. You know, if you've been with a dude and it's been 3 weeks and he ain't really developed a love for you, and something go left, you could talk to till your lips fall off, and he ain't got enough invested to really come around. But for somebody that you've been with 15 years, they're more willing to listen to your end of it, your side of it, even when you're saying, "I know I was wrong. I know." If your husband came to you and said, "Hey, I cheated on you," I don't know what the Society of Vagina says is the magic thing that he should be able to say at that point, or is it nothing he could say at that point? Some women, like we said, would say there's nothing to be said thereafter. Some women are willing to put their knuckles on their chin and say, "I'm listening." You know what I'm saying? I'm listening because really what you want is to hear, how did we get here and how do we never get here again? That's what a successful long-term relationship has in this question bucket. How did we get here and how do we not get here again? And if we got here because of drugs, alcohol, neglect, whatever the case may be, that's totally different than, and I also have a child and his name is after mine, been with her for 7 years and we've been together for 14 years. That's a totally different cheating. We're talking about affairs and cheating, totally different levels of situations. But I do believe it's valuable to understand what can be said because it's a situation where some people you can go upside the head and you can explain that the job been stressing you and this and that and the third, your mama died recently and all this other stuff. And some people, there is no explanation for you going upside the head. There is no explanation for you calling me out of my name. There is no explanation for you quitting your job without saying something. This is the first I heard of it that you don't work there no more. Some people do not allow for that. And so you have to know your person. And I think that when you know your person enough, no matter how articulate you are or inarticulate you may be, they're willing to listen to your version of your truth and understand how it all got to this point. And hopefully it's not a shock. It's just more of a surprise.
Like it. John, do you have any closing thoughts or you want me to go first? Don't matter to
You
me.
go ahead.
I'll just say in closing to me, conflict resolution, having good skills is a sign of maturity. So immature people typically don't resolve conflicts easily. It usually ends in fights and the physical stuff we were talking about. And I think we learned here today, at least I did, that there's different conflict resolution languages. If we're with somebody, we got to care enough, show the effort, or show the give a damn uh, to establish rules of engagement. How do we resolve conflict? If I know you need a day, or if I know not to come to your office for the day, it just kiss you first, and then we resolve the conflict. If it's engagement SLAs, I think we need to know that about each other. And I think there's no conflict that's 100% one person's fault.
Mhm.
I think both people should apologize. So you can apologize for your fault, whether it's not listening, whether it's neglect or whatever it is. Apologize for your part, and that person can also apologize for their bigger part because it's probably never 50-50 either. Both people should be apologizing and establishing going forward, this is what we're going to do and how we're going to prevent it. I think conflict resolution is a sign of maturity, and it's what make couples work once you get on that same page and understand each other's languages.
Before she goes, I do want to
Mhm.
say this. I disagree with your concept of sometimes both people need to apologize, because I have been in every relationship I've ever been in. I've caught strays. They didn't have shit to do with me, but I got it, and it was conflict, and I'm not apologizing for somebody else's fuck up. And and Sean, I know you done gave a lot of strays. So do you do you agree with that?
I was just gonna close with saying two things. One, for people that's in relationships that's trying to make it work and want to make it work. Yeah, communication is the number one that your go-to to make it work. But also, you have to be a good listener. Uh, it doesn't matter what the conflict is, who's ever bringing it to the table. There's acknowledging that there is something that we need to sit down and talk about. Being on the other end of that, you need to be a listener. Don't take it too personally. Listen to what it is that the other person is saying, what they're feeling, um, and try not to take it as somebody pointing fingers at you. You know, you're there to try to solve the issue that you're having within your relationship. Now, the second part to it is for anyone that's in a relationship that feels like it's over and you want to leave. Uh, in my opinion, I'm not going to say, I don't want to say you shouldn't care, but if you care about yourself more, and that's one of the reasons you want to leave, then you shouldn't be looking for an apology, and there's nothing to apologize for. And if someone's cheated on you and you say I'm one and done, you know, and they may say, well, I cheated on you because of, well, if they didn't come to you and say, hey, you're making me feel this way, and they went and cheated, that's how they, solve the issue, but they got caught and you caught them, then no, I don't feel like you should apologize. Why am I apologizing for making you go out and cheat on me? You should leave, and you shouldn't feel guilty about it. You shouldn't feel bad about it, and you shouldn't care how they feel. When you say you're done, you're done. But for the strays, I don't think you should. If you caught strays and people didn't warn you about those shots that was aimed at you, you didn't have no warning at all what was going on. Like I said, somebody cheated because you weren't showing me enough attention, but they never gave you a heads up. You ain't been showing me no attention in a while. Then, nah, what you apologizing for? You didn't tell. You went out and you felt some type of way, and you decided to handle that by doing this, and that's what you chose to do. So this is what I'm choosing to do. Oh, apologizing for what? No, I don't think you
You
should.
too. So you not monitoring the attention meter as well? And for the strays, you can't catch strays for 10 years straight.
It's
You know the strays is coming at that point.
monitoring. I gotta monitor how much attention I give you.
Yes.
That's too much for me to keep. I don't
Okay,
see
the
how can I
agreement
monitor
is
that.
the agreement is we do it 3 times a week. You
Okay.
know that it's been less than 3 times a week. So you can reach out proactively and he can also reach out proactively. It's probably more on him too, but it's
Okay.
on
So
you
you
as well. Y'all are
you
accountability partners.
well since you said 3 times a week and you put a number on something, then yes, then I'm aware of that. I can monitor that. But if it's I hadn't told you your hair was pretty and you got your hair cut, and I hadn't done it the last 3 times. Come on, it can be silly little simple little stuff that can be easily go. It can be missed. That's what I'm saying. I
Mhm.
can't monitor that if you had on a new dress and I didn't notice. It was hanging up in your closet for 3 months and you just put it on this one time and I didn't say something. Now I'm not showing you no attention. Somebody at work noticed that it was a new dress, but I did. I'm just saying something like that. But when you say getting physical and actions and we agreed on 3 times and then, yeah, and it's been once that whole month, then, yeah, that's my fault. I can apologize for that. But again, you have to communicate that. And like you said, there's different ways to communicate. And also, but there's only one way to listen, I think, in my opinion. And people are not good listeners. I think We have people that
Ooh.
communicate in relationship. I think, and it can go both ways. You can be a communicator and a non-listener.
I think we can talk about that on another pod. Let's talk about ways to listen. But all right. Thanks,
Absolutely.
folks. Tune in next week.
This concludes another episode of the Hollow Points Podcast, where we act as your therapeutic outlet on topics many think about but are afraid to speak on.
Oh, you're welcome.